This is actually the first event that we've delivered as RIBA International since the pandemic, so it's a special evening for us, so we're delighted to welcome you here tonight. My name's Emma England and I'm Head of Programme Delivery for RIBA International. And we also have tonight 450 people joining us online from all over the world. So welcome to our online audience. Great to have you with us here tonight. So as I said, this talk's delivered by the RIBA International Directorate, and it's a huge honour this evening to welcome esteemed architect Yasmeen Lari, who has joined us from Pakistan. So welcome to the RIBA, Yasmeen. RIBA International delivers the majority of RIBA activities outside the UK to support the 8,000 international members that we have. We have 2 overseas international offices, one based in Shanghai and the other in Sharjah. We have 6 member-led chapters based outside of the UK, and we support future architects through 52 international validated schools of architecture. Our team also deliver the International Relations Programme. We collaborate with international institutes of architects, and we also deliver the RIBA Export Programme, which supports RIBA practices to export their skills to new markets. And in fact, we've actually just returned from MIPIM. We've been on a mission to support a delegation of 35 RIBA chartered practices just this week. Yasmeen is in the UK to celebrate the 20th anniversary of the Oxford Human Rights Festival, which is run by Oxford Brookes. We have Christine here tonight from Oxford Brookes. Welcome, Christine. And Yasmeen is an alumni of Oxford Brookes, where she studied architecture. I'd also like to thank Oxford Brookes University for making the event possible tonight, and also to the iStructi who have supported the event with promotion. So as I'm sure you are all aware, Yasmeen is very well known as being the first female architect to qualify in Pakistan. So we are thrilled to have her here this evening for the event as part of the highlight of our RIBA International Women in Architecture campaign. And also, unusually, in the interest of gender balance, we had to find a man for a chair. So we're delighted to welcome Jeff Rich tonight, who is the managing partner of Field & Clegg Bradley Studios, who will be our chair this evening. Jeff, as I said, is managing partner of Field & Clegg Bradley. He takes the leading role in the practice's creative reuse and regeneration work. He's an accredited conservation architect, and recent projects include the National Museums Liverpool, Hampton Court Palace, and the major repair and renovation of Bath Abbey. Internationally, he is an advisor for Turquoise Mountain, the community-focused and heritage-led urban regeneration company, working on the tourist Burma building, and for UNCAS, one of Georgian's most important archaeological sites. He's a visiting lecturer on conservation, regeneration and sustainability at several universities, including Oxford Brookes. Please welcome Jeff Rich.
Thank you very much, Emma, and good evening, everybody. And welcome indeed to this very special event hosted by RIBA International and here at the RIBA in London. And I'm delighted and I feel truly honoured to welcome everyone here this evening and be invited to do that, both here in this amazing historic room, which has heard so many famous lectures, and also to all of those joining us online from all around the world. And this evening, we're privileged to hear from such a special architect indeed, Yasmeen Lari. Often described as the architect for the poorest of the poor, Yasmeen Lari is one of the best known of all architects in her home country of Pakistan. Having moved to London with her family aged 15 for the first time, Yasmeen studied and graduated from the School of Architecture at Oxford Brookes University, as Emma said. And Oxford Brookes is still a place Yasmeen holds dear to her heart, and she was teaching there last week as part of this trip, inspiring students and staff with her work and her approach. Yasmeen returned to her home country of Pakistan after graduating, where she has lived ever since. And as Emma said, and as many of you may know, she became the first woman to qualify as an architect in Pakistan in 1963. In a stellar early career, she was responsible for designing some of the country's landmark commercial buildings, such as the Finance and Trade Centre and the Pakistan State Oil House. And her work also included landmark social housing schemes, including the largest urban redevelopment project in Asia at the time. Yasmeen made the decision to retire from architectural practice in 2000, but then a new career began, which is so important and so inspiring. Since that formal retirement, Yasmeen Lari has been advocating for a different kind of barefoot social architecture, which uses low carbon local ingredients. She's developed a number of methodologies for low cost affordable housing and zero carbon shelters, particularly in disaster affected areas. Described as the world's largest zero carbon shelter program, since 2005, Yasmeen has built more than a staggering 45,000 affordable and carbon neutral homes, mainly from mud, lime and bamboo. Yasmeen Lari has also trained thousands of local people in how to be self-sufficient through the Heritage Foundation of Pakistan, which she co-founded with her husband. And if that's not enough, Yasmeen is also renowned for her work as an architectural historian, a heritage and environmental conservationist, a humanitarian worker, and a philanthropist. She has served as the president of the Institute of Architects Pakistan and as a UNESCO National Advisor. And her work has been recognized by many awards, including the Fukuoka Prize for Asian Arts and Culture in 2016, and the Jane Drew Prize awarded by the RIBA in 2020. She's also received the UNESCO Recognition Award for the promotion of culture and peace, the Islamic Development Prize for Women's Empowerment, and the World Habitat Award in 2018. And she was the first woman for over 150 years to be awarded an honorary degree by the prestigious Politecnico di Milano in Italy. She's written several publications and she's lectured widely in universities and architectural institutions in Asia, Europe, Australia, and the USA. And her architectural works have been exhibited in various countries around the world, including Chicago and Vienna Biennales and the Museum of Modern Art, New York, this year. Yasmeen, we're so thrilled and grateful that you're able to join us in person here this evening. And ladies and gentlemen, I invite you to join me in welcoming to the stage our speaker, Yasmeen Lari.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for this very generous introduction, Jeff. And I bring you greetings from Pakistan. Good evening, everybody. What a nice day it's been today. I was dreading coming to England, but it's been very good while I've been here. And thank you all who have braved COVID-19 to be here this evening physically, and virtual participants for your interest in watching online. So hello out there. Thank you, Jeff, for this introduction that you made, but amazing work that you're doing yourself. So it really has been a great pleasure to meet with you. And I also would like to thank Institution of Structural Engineers and also Oxford Brookes, of course, who made it possible for me to be here. And of course, also RIBA International for organizing and hosting this event here. So it was really wonderful for me to go back to Oxford Brookes and to join in the Human Rights Festival, quite an amazing whole series of events that happened there. And it is so good that Dr. Christina, who heads Brookes Architecture, is here with us. So thank you for coming here today as well. I'm deeply honored to once again be invited to RIBA for a discourse with fellow architects at a time when we are all confronted with a rapidly changing world. When I was studying architecture in the late 1950s and early 1960s, 66 Portland Place was among my favorite haunts in London. So thank you for again inviting me and giving me the opportunity to relive the memories of my student days, and to Emma England for organizing the event, and also to Chloe Sadler for all the arrangements. And of course, there's also Richard, who's manning all the technology. So thank you all very much indeed for all these arrangements that you've made. The fact that I was here when Jane Duncan, OBE, a woman, was at the helm of affairs at RIBA. She was the president. That is when I was invited the first time in 2016. So my talk coincided with the opening of an exhibition in which my zero carbon bamboo women's center on stilts had the privilege to share the display space with masters such as Christopher Wren and some renowned international architects. I remember that a UK correspondent who wanted to know about what I was going to present was horrified to think that it'll consist of my green low-tech work based on self-building and co-building, saying, did I realize that there will be many well-known architects in the audience, and how would these bamboo, lime, and earth works go down with them? I was really horrified to think I'll be doing that. So I would like to once again ask the question that I first raised in my 2016 RIBA presentation, and later in RIBA talk at V&A Dundee in 2020, and also in many architects' assemblies around the world. And the question is, should architects continue to be an instrument in the hands of the 1%, who economist Thomas Piketty says have accumulated the most wealth? And must we aspire only to become prima donnas, creating a architecture for the select few, however much damage it may cause to the earth? And that too in a world where 1 in 8 persons goes to bed hungry every night. Well, I'm much encouraged by present focus on promotion of green building techniques, especially when the current president of RIBA, Simon Alford himself, is discussing low carbon materials and climate challenge. And so it is happening, but far too slowly, I believe. As I've said in my manifesto published last year in London's The Zine magazine, today we live in an era that is beset with fragmentation and disruptions. It is a world ravaged by rising poverty levels and increasing disparities, depletion of the Earth's resources and climate change impact, along with COVID-19 imperatives, all requiring innovative design solutions. In a new world order, how can we continue to design for the privileged 1% just because they have acquired the most wealth? Under such challenging circumstances, it is the part of design that is in demand for serving the other 99%, because it is not only the privileged who have a right to enjoy well-designed environments. Those that live on the margins need more, not less design, to achieve a better quality of life. I believe the time has come when we must develop a framework for a change direction in architecture. A majority of us need to relinquish the desire to create imposing megastructures, which have traditionally been commissioned by the likes of the sophisticated Medicis of Florence, the unscrupulous robber barons of East India Company, the eco-indulgent merchant princes of Industrial Revolution, and the present day's exploitative multinationals that promote high carbon lifestyles. We are all aware of the damage caused by the colonial mindset to the Earth's ecosystem due to wasteful and highly consumptive ways of living and building. In view of the impact of COVID-19 pandemic and widespread movements of Me Too and Black Lives Matter, the fault lines are now evident in the wasteful high-tech urban design and architectural solutions adopted by industrialized countries that give preference to vehicles and high carbon enterprises rather than human beings and human values. If we wish to reverse the tide and save the planet from further misuse, I suggest that we need to really now seek low-tech, low-impact solutions found in countries in the global south, such as Pakistan, countries which have rich traditions of tangible and intangible heritage. That we now have to see to fashioning an equitable world based on local wisdoms and vernacular technologies. So today I thought I will share with you my journey in the pursuit of social and eco-justice, for the majority of which includes learning from tradition and heritage to serving the marginalized and attempts at humanizing Karachi's urban environment. Let me see if I can handle this technology now. Yeah, okay. Right. So a little bit about my organization, which is Heritage Foundation. As you see, it's a not-for-profit social and cultural entrepreneur organization established for safeguarding Pakistan's cultural heritage. But since 2005, it provides humanitarian assistance by linking heritage for innovative, socially and ecologically led initiatives. So now a little bit about the diverse heritage of Pakistan that exists. So I draw sustenance from heritage and cultural traditions, which ranges from a rich collection of tangible heritage beginning from Bronze Age, Mohenjo-daro to 19th and 20th century British colonial period, all lending a diversity to our cultural legacy that is now not found in many countries. Intangible heritage is all pervading and with many rituals and crafts being practiced even to this day. And then the vernacular heritage, from where I have learned the use of sustainable materials, local sourcing, ease of handling, economy in use, and one that is based on local wisdoms. So here are some of the age-old methodologies that we have inherited in Pakistan, and I'd just like to show them to you. For instance, this is really a book on the, if I can do this, this is the book that I actually wrote way back in I think it was 1979 or 80, when I wrote about the historic town of Thatta with its distinctive wind catchers and beautiful lime-stabilized mud-blasted walls. The sketch of a wind scoop, as you can see here, it shows that how wind is drawn inside the house, providing natural cooling throughout the house. And then, of course, go to the next slide, you will see this is a remarkable mansion in Peshawar's walled city, which I was able to conserve. The courtyard configuration creates its own microclimate within buildings without relying on any mechanical means. At night, cool air stored in the atrium, which is here. Oops, sorry. You can see how it goes down into the atrium and cools the area around it until the sun comes out. So it is also a mechanism to be able to regulate climate within these buildings. And then third one I wanted to show you was this zero energy water cooling. In the early 2000s, UNESCO appointed me National Advisor for Conservation of World Heritage, Lahore. And here, water fountains in introverted atriums cool the surrounding structures along with natural water cooling mechanisms, as you see in the Mughal Lahore's Paradisal Garden, which is the Shalimar. So in the early 2000s, so it is from methodologies such as these from which I understood the value of ancient wisdoms and traditional techniques for providing buildings of great comfort, utilizing minimal energy. And so it is ironic that even though belonging to the third world, during 36 years of private practice, barring a few projects for social housing, earth buildings, and work in informal settlements that Jeff mentioned, I also had indulged in an extravagant, egotistic journey which focused on serving the elite of my country, such as the head office of Pakistan State Oil at the time of Fortune 500 listed company. So let's now look at the challenges that are there today for us. So it's after I had brought to a close my career as a star architect from 2005, recurring disasters in Pakistan forced my attention towards the vast marginalized sections of my own country. As a result of the understanding that I developed regarding the challenges to the Earth's ecosystem by the way I designed, it was the interaction with poverty-stricken, vulnerable populations that forced me to dispense with my highly inflated ego, when I was able to explore their age-old practices. Learning from Pakistan's pre-industrial vernacular heritage, I understood that design is not a standalone activity. It must be underpinned by considerations of social impact and ecological sustainability. Some find it strange that I should have decided to get off the gravy train of a successful practice. Clearly, there is a great deal of comfort in continuing to pursue well-trodden avenues, but I can tell you from my own experience, nothing could be more enriching than the exploration of an unpaved, vagabond pathway, because it opened up a host of possibilities for me. As I move forward on a divergent path from practicing architecture from the one which I was trained for, the question uppermost in my mind is, and the question is, how can architects play a role in mending the imbalances by stitching this highly damaged earth tapestry? Is there something that we need to think about? Is there something that we can do something about? So as we know, the Brundtland Commission report of 1987 had emphasized sustainable development and in particular, meeting the needs of the world's poor. In the light of climate change, the question is whether architects will consider minimizing the use of highly energy consumptive cement and steel by creating hybrid structures. A combination of high carbon skeletons with low carbon infill and finishes, perhaps incorporating my favorite zero carbon materials, lime instead of cement, bamboo rather than wood, and lime stabilized earth and aggregate that will make cement concrete redundant. This is a dream I have. I don't know when it'll happen. What if creative professionals begin to follow movements based on transition design, degrowth, and circular economy to limit consumption levels in the global north, and my barefoot social architecture or BAZA for sustenance of the marginalized in the global south, creating alternative design conceptions which would help to fashion sustainable and equitable lifestyles for humankind. So let's look at this now. This is Barefoot in Makli, which is the site that I work on, the World Heritage Site. Because of widespread deficits and deprivations, particularly among women, for me, the pursuit for justice has been paramount in all these years that I've been working with the marginalized. And the reason why I decided to design BAZA for the disadvantaged, I felt empathy with those who walked barefoot and had become my fellow travelers. Walking barefoot demonstrates the harshness of life, but it also has its benefits. You are able to tread softly on earth and grow up using the planet's resources judiciously. So let's see, what is BAZA? Some of you have probably heard of it. BAZA is akin to social engineering for bringing about social change, incorporating environmental, cultural, and technical dimensions, resulting in transformation of mindset from a cycle of dependency to a culture of pride and self-reliance. On the one hand, BAZA seeks to democratize architecture that provides people with well-being and self-esteem. On the other, it unashamedly promotes zero-carbon footprint structures, using ubiquitous earth, conservative magic lime, and renewable bamboo. For myself, while working with marginalized communities, I've stumbled upon numerous design opportunities unclaimed before in the pursuit of fulfilling the exigencies of social and ecological well-being. So just wanted to show you the impact of BAZA. You can see the benefits accrued through implementation of BAZA strategy, where we were able to provide assistance to 0.84 million people in 7 years in over 100,000 persons per year through our zero carbon rights-based development. It aims to achieve 12 out of 17 sustainable development goals or SDGs at an extremely low cost. And then very quickly, we'll just go through what are the different tenets of BAZA. These are familiar, those who are familiar know what they are, but I'll just repeat them because a lot of people don't know, and I feel this is something that we need to consider very carefully. So the first is maximizing the potential of existing barefoot ecosystem, applying 3 zeros. Zero cost to donor, zero carbon, and zero waste methodologies leading to zero poverty. And so secondly, focus on social and ecological justice through humanistic architecture, fostering pride, dignity, and well-being, and preventing depletion of the planet's resources. And thirdly, Delivery of unmet needs through Barefoot entrepreneurs or bees with particular focus on women through Barefoot Incubator for Social Good and Environmental Sustainability for training in affordable products for the BOP, for the bottom of the pyramid. So they make products for the other poor, not necessarily for the rich. And then a fourth one is low-tech, low-impact, non-engineered structures for shrinking the ecological footprint in construction using green skills and sustainable, locally sourced materials. Just let us see what we have in tenet word. One, which is maximizing the barefoot ecosystem. So among the reasons for bazaar outreach have been the maximization of the barefoot ecosystem, which is vast. I mean, in Pakistan, there's more than 50% who are below the poverty line today. In many countries, it could consist of over 80% even. And then if we see, there's barefoot economy, there's the barefoot market, there's the barefoot enterprises, barefoot entrepreneurs, barefoot skills, and barefoot products. This is all part of the barefoot ecosystem which exists, but no economist and hardly anybody else ever sees the poor as having the potential to be able to do everything themselves. And if you will see now, this is a kind of definition of the barefoot economy, barefoot market, barefoot enterprises, barefoot entrepreneurs, barefoot skills, and barefoot products. And if you concentrate on that, you'll find that they can do a lot of things themselves. They don't need a kind of charity that we all think about when we think of them. So in order to create zero carbon humanistic architecture fostering pride, dignity, and well-being, I follow two gurus. There's Hassan Fathy, and I always ask this question, how many of you have heard of Hassan Fathy? Oh, well, you're doing better than most places. That's very good. That's nice to know. So he's the Earth Guru, as you know. He's the author of Architecture for the Poor, who taught me the value of engaging them to unleash their creativity. And that's something important. They also have creativity within them that just needs to be awakened or given the chance. And then, of course, the second is the, and that must know all of you probably, is ancient Roman Marcus Vitruvius, who is so well known. From him, I've learned the use of lime and the importance of air, water, earth, and fire. 4 elements, the alchemy of which leads us to democratic norms and behavior. And then I would like to introduce the 3 materials that I have used in my humanitarian architecture to achieve carbon neutral structures. In this slide, you can see the attributes of such materials. So earth. A combination of unfired clay, rich earth, and straw provides passive environmental control. It buffers relative humidity, creates non-toxic, healthy internal environments. Its waste becomes a resource, and it minimizes stress on heating or cooling systems. It is a miracle material with 0 embodied energy and 0 eco footprint. The second you will see is the low energy lime, which through the alchemy of fire transforms a lump of stone into an unparalleled force that has provided strength to Bronze Age Egyptian pyramids and 1st century BC Roman aqueducts and the impregnable 15th century Timurid forts. Lime is again an amazing material, and people who have worked in conservation, and as Jeff and I were discussing, there is something that is used so often in that, but not today in our other construction. So once the common earth and lime are mixed together, water provides a strength that cannot be surpassed by any other material, and the least by Portland cement. This is what I discovered when I started using lime with earth. It's just amazing what it does. So, and the third material is that the one that environmentalists love is bamboo. That is the largest renewable resource. How many might have used bamboo at any one time as an experiment or, yes, okay. All right, there are few, yes. I think maybe if you can, next time, maybe there could be more, that would be very nice. It is due to its resilience and ease of use. It is the mainstay of my non-engineered seismic and flood resistant structures. Technically classified a grass, it yields a new crop every 2 to 3 years. It's not wood, it is a grass. It's amazing, the more you cut, the more it grows. So coincidentally, the use of such materials is the route to 0 or low ecological footprint also. Now we come to tenet number 2, which is social and ecological justice and humanitarian sort of architecture. So let's see. Here are some of the examples I wanted to show you how I'm learning from tradition. And these are traditional building techniques that I've adopted, and you can see this special conical roof, as you can see here. Oops, sorry. You see this one here in the way that I have used it in the buildings that I'm doing. So, and it's amazing how cool it is because it breathes with the thatch that is there. And then, of course, another one that I wanted to show you is the vernacular construction. I call it the improved vernacular. And this is the cross bracing of Pakistan's north, which we found in the earthquake area. After the earthquake, they survived. And my innovation is to replace wood with bamboo to create strong and resilient structures. This is the basis of the log or Lari octagreen structural wall panels that is finding universal application, and I'll be talking about it a little later. And then I just want to show you this particular one. This is bamboo women's center on stilts. So Al Jazeera did this, and you can see that it's all bamboo. And it was built in 2010, and it is still surviving. It gets flooding every year in this particular place, and you can see how it survives. And that is what it is, that, bamboo can have that resilience and is very, very strong. And then just wanted to show you another one, which is the floating structure. And I think Aisha is here, who helped to put this one together. You're there somewhere, Aisha? Yeah, there you are. Okay, she was interning with us last year. So this is a time-lapse video where it shows how the whole structure can be put together very quickly. And oops, can we go forward a little bit? Yeah. And you can see it was put up very, very quickly. And now that we've learned, by working in heritage, we've learned how to make domes and have this curved bamboo as well. So there are lots of different experiments we've done. And you can see how this is it's very light and how it will float. And so again, where there are floods, this is one of the most important ways of being able to counter that. And you might know that majority of something like 50% of hazards today are water related. So this kind of technique would be very useful for us. So let's go further. Oops. All right, now we come to tenet 3, which is delivery of unmet needs through Barefoot incubator. There are lots of unmet needs. I don't know whether you have thought about it, but the poor have needs, but they are never met because nobody bothers to help them to be able to achieve them. So this is something that's very important. And for this, we've got this Barefoot incubator for social good and environmental sustainability, under which we actually train a lot of people. So normally they are locally sourced materials, and by training we provide them the skills, and such as the zero carbon shelter and toilet and earthen Pakistan chula that I will be showing you. For instance, this particular unit is a bamboo frame structure, and then you can see it's only 65 pounds and you can build the whole unit. Similarly, the toilet is also very, very inexpensive. And then again, this is the Pakistan chula, of which I'm very proud of. It is a humble, smokeless, fuel-efficient earthen stove, which has transformed the lives of 70,000 rural housewives and brought them health, dignity, and respect. And the next one will show you how this is the President of Pakistan, who was brought the trophy by David Ireland from World Habitat. And then on the left is this lady whom I call an icon, because she's the one who actually has helped to build about 35,000 of them. And she used to earn now she earns about 25 times what she used to earn 5 years ago, or over 550 pounds per month as compared to 22 pounds that she earned earlier. So that is where I feel many of them can become millionaires, of these poor, if they learned the right techniques and got the skills to be able to do this. Because there's so many needs, and anybody focusing on that will be able to earn a lot of money. So then we have this, I wanted to show you this one because this is training of these village artisans. Again, it's a, yeah, if we can just start this thing. These are women also, artisans who are learning, and some of them had never been out of their homes, never been out of their village, and they learn to even read drawings. And you will see further they learn to cut the bamboo, and you see, you can see they learn to tie the whole thing. It's amazing how people who've had no experience ever before are really can learn. And there's such a thirst and for knowledge that if we could just arrange for this kind of, trainings and sharing of everything that we know, it will just transform their lives. So this is the roof of the structure being put together, and it's like it folds like an umbrella. So you'll see in a moment how it's all brought together, and then how there it is. This is the roof, and then it can be all, again, you open it up and you can make a whole thing out of it. So there's a lot that can be done just by training of these people. This is the chula that's going on, right? So now, this is tenet 4, which is non-engineered structures for shrinking the ecological footprint. And I wanted to just show you the impact of the present construction that we have, which I don't know whether you're aware, but it is the biggest environmental polluters the way we actually construct buildings today. So you can see 40% of world energy, 16% of world water usage, 3 billion tons of raw material, and 15 to 20% of waste stream. This is UNEP figures, right? And then you can see steel at 1600 to 1800 centigrade, Portland cement also, and so does ceramic brick. Lime is also there, but then lime absorbs carbon from the air, so it has that good quality. And I wanted to show you also the kind of urbanized shelters that are imposed by mostly UN agencies and other international organizations when we run into disasters in countries like mine. So this promotes expensive urbanized models of construction, and using the colonial Western charity model, international organizations have destroyed initiatives of target communities by treating them as victims who must subsist on handouts. That's the worst thing we can do to anybody, is to demean them by giving them a charity. And so the colonial mindset among non-state actors, such as international and national aid agencies, as well as state institutions, has been extremely damaging, promoting a culture of dependence rather than encouraging self-reliance. So the damage caused to the planet can be seen in this study, as you can see. When the burnt bricks are used, you can, something like over 50,000 acres were denuded of all forests in that area. And so this is what we have to really remember, the consequence of our design, of the way we design and the way we build. And we have to be very mindful as to how much damage we might be causing. So in contrast, this house that is, as you can see, I think it's about 1/3 or 1/5 the cost of the other structures, the what are called engineered structures, and use urbanized models and either cement blocks or burnt brick, and you can see that it is no carbon emissions, no trees are felled, 750 villages were covered, and 300,000 persons were housed, and so this is only mud and lime, and then as you can see the roof is bamboo, and people just climb over to check it whether it's strong enough, and that's it. And that's what sells the product basically, because people thought that nobody would want bamboo, but there it is, And okay, then so then I just wanted to show you this particular. This is again an animation. Maybe if you can start it, Richard, please, if you would. Yeah, this is the bamboo prefabricated panel that is being used in many different ways. I just wanted to show you how versatile this can be, because if you have 8, you can make a room, which is we normally do, and then it's decorated, or you can put any finishes that you want in it. And then if you were to add 2 more panels, then this becomes a kind of a longish room for a school or classroom, and you can then again finish it with whatever material that you might have. And then if you add another 4 and put a dome on it, then it becomes a women's center. And then again, if you were to add on some more modules to it, then it becomes a big community center. And if you can see, well, yeah, that's it. And then I'll just show you how it is in reality when it was built in Makli. It's called the Interbao Center for Trade and so on. So then now we want to show you further This really is the zero carbon cultural center in Makli, which is also made out of the same sort of giant prefab panels and trusses. It's entirely of bamboo. There is no other material being used here at all, and it's very open. So with the result that it's got lots of air in it. It's about 57 feet wide, 80 feet long, and it's 26 feet high. The largest such structure in Pakistan is known as ZC3. And then this is where we do a lot of trainings, and you can see how the work on terracotta tiles is going on here by lots of village folk. And then again, the same place becomes the Interbao conference, international conference that we held. It doubles up as an international conference center. So there's so much that can be done with just very mundane and simple materials. So then I thought I'll just show you, this is again the same panels, but incremental housing in urban context for slums and so on. And anyway, this is really, just wanted to say that levels of homelessness and poverty in almost all countries are now alarmingly high, as we know. So as we do not have any expectation, at least I don't have any expectation from government or from UN and other donor agencies whose siloed Western charity model in any case is not sustainable, nor I think acceptable. So I've decided that, as Jeff has mentioned, architect for the poorest of the poor, I'm honor bound to provide easy access to technical guidance to the marginalized for building safe DRR compliant structures themselves, which is disaster risk reduction structures. We now have over 24 open source graphically illustrated video tutorials for green skills and zero carbon constructions that have been uploaded on YouTube Zero Carbon channel. These step-by-step tutorials are enabling even non-literate households, providing them with technical guidance for self-building, safe and climate-resilient housing using locally sourced sustainable materials. The video tutorials are helping to spread low-impact techniques in Pakistan and across the world. So if you look at this, I wanted to show you this. On the left is this that was done by students at Politecnico di Milano under the guidance of Professor Dr. Ilaria and Professor Cassandra. The middle one is really, again, through following the video, sorry. This is in a village in Pakistan, and the third one is really by a French architect who was working for a orphanage in Malawi. So this is how the spread can be and how we can reach out to so many people. And then I wanted to show you this, which is through a recent partnership of Heritage Foundation with British Council that has helped to spread it to Bangladesh through live streaming of construction activity between the two countries. And I'm glad that Parvinder Mawaha is here today. Are you there, Parvinder, or have you left? Ah, there she is. So she's the one who's been pushing it forward. So she's been instrumental in making the project happen, and I'm just happy that she's here with us today. So in the last week of May, through facilitation by British Council, Interbao, World Habitat and Pakistan's Bank of Punjab, Heritage Foundation is organizing a build of log of the Lari Lecture London model by trained female students from universities in Pakistan and Bangladesh, as well as students from UK, and I think 2 are going to be from Oxford Brookes. Yeah, one is already there, another one will come. And so it'll be all done in London's Granary Square. This bamboo build will be supplemented by the crafting of the World Habitat winner in Pakistan Chula that I showed you, but it'll be something quite spectacular when you see it because it was really very different by trained women artisans who will come from rural Sindh. And I hope most of you will find the time to come. It'll be on for a week at the end of May, and that you might just enjoy watching all that will be done there. And then just thought very quickly, I don't know how we're doing for time. Have I still got okay? All right, very quickly, I'll try to wrap up. Now this is climate resilient urbanism. I thought we should talk a little bit about these aspects which probably relate to you more than what I've been talking about. And of course, then this is circular economy and also what is climate smart urbanism. And I thought that, if we take these issues, they might have something that you might also feel that, in some way it might be useful. So we know that urban centers are the front lines of climate change battlegrounds and require urgent measures for creation of inclusive, healthy, sustainable environments that help in curtailing natural hazards. Here I would disagree with the billionaire Bill Gates, when he writes, and I quote, "Rich countries are best suited to develop innovative climate solutions," unquote. He foresees global north to formulate universal solutions for avoiding climate disasters in view of what he says are the vast talent and inexhaustible resources available in wealthy industrialized countries. To many of us, this statement is extremely arrogant and dismissive of disaster resilient traditional techniques found in many countries in the global south. Since through my work, I have demonstrated that traditional urbanism really equals eco-urbanism. And it might be something worth thinking about. So, for instance, I brought you this slide from walled city of Lahore, this amazing city in Pakistan. And it's my hope that New York, that suffered from a high COVID infection rate and with its high carbon, high density glittering towers, will no longer be the urbanist future beacon. Instead, I believe that it is the global south that will provide affordable and sustainable solutions which are drawn from traditional knowledge and resonate with cultural aspirations of its communities. I'm confident that eco-urbanism will take root that draws upon traditional environments found in countries such as Pakistan, aiming for low-rise, medium-density formations with open-to-sky terraces for families to remain in contact with nature when a pandemic strikes, with pedestrian enclaves and local along the corner shopping without being disrupted by vehicular traffic, which should be rightly relegated to the periphery. So as the need for extensive vehicular mobility is curtailed and consumption levels are reduced in the new world order, what if eco-cities would embody the virtues of carbon neutral environments? Nature conservation and biodiversity enhancement, and conversion of existing vehicular roadways into really landscaped, forested walking streets for lowering pollution levels, interventions that lead to better health and well-being of humankind. At the same time, lower the carbon footprint to mitigate disasters. So I thought I'll show you this particular one that is what we've just actually completed, not even 8 or 9 months ago, which is Regeneration of Karachi's historic core. And this is really, the whole thing is basis, it has been the 12 heritage buildings that are still surviving that all have to be restored. And you can see on the left is, it really suffered from the worst of urban blight and a host of complex issues. Karachi is a totally problem-ridden city. So I've been able to also utilize 4 R's of circular economy, and you will see what they are, and I'm sure a lot of them are aware of that. And as you can see, I've been able to achieve energy efficient, resilient environment, resulting in meeting both climate goals as well as equitable environmental conditions. But also the 4 R's have been identified that comprise reducing, reusing, recycling, and recovering materials in production, distribution, and consumption processes for the benefit of current and future generations. And then see the next slide. This is really what the project was like when it designed. It has notified heritage assets. It's got put in 4 Miyawaki style forests, and it's got terracotta tiles. It's got no steel, no concrete in it at all. And so the next one you'll see, you can see what they are, if you will. This is it's based on few principles, which is which I've just talked about. It does curtail impervious, the use of concrete and so on, and really the greenhouse gas emissions. And above all, it is using a lot of terracotta tiles, which are permeable also. And then it has these 7 aquifer wells, as you can see on the top, which are deep, and they've taken a lot of flood water. There's about 1,400 square feet of sponge surfaces, which is here. It's got 3,000 square feet of terracotta permeable pavements, as you can see there. And then, of course, it has these Miyawaki style forests, which some of them have grown about 10 feet in about 12 months. And there are 600 trees planted here. So, and the regeneration of this, this is the view from the top. It's been taken recently. It has the following attributes. It's a walking street, in a low carbon, totally inclusive, and it was really rare to see women and children earlier on, but now there are lots of them there. So it is a unique partnership of civil society consisting of the foundation, Karachi administration and shop owners as stakeholders, economy and implementation at a substantially reduced cost compared to similar urban developments. There's restoration of historic buildings and it's developing a sense of ownership. There's use of zero concrete and steel, as I said, emphasis on water conservation, replenishment of aquifers through deep wells and sponge pavements, reduce audio-visual pollution. It's a healthy, cool environment with pollution-free clean air. There's zero urban heat islands and there's zero urban flooding. So it is improved biodiversity, there are birds, butterflies and beehives there, and there's enhanced commerce and tourism. And it's been less than a year, we have seen the transformation at a once unfriendly, unhealthy environment becoming a unique cultural activity area that is inclusive and promotes street activities to show the diversity that exists in the rainbow city of Karachi. And this is my last slide now. I just wanted to leave this message to you that the 3 zeros that we need to think about: zero carbon, zero waste, and zero poverty for saving humanity and saving the planet through co-creation and low-tech, low-impact methodologies. Thank you very much for your patience. Thank you. So.
There we go, it works. It should just work, Yasmeen, just try, yeah. So Yasmeen, thank you so much for such an inspiring talk. In a time now where we all yearn for a sense of humanity and the engagement of others in the creation of meaningful art and architecture, it was so wonderful to hear not only about your work, but also your approach and also your commitment to sharing that approach with so many others. And thank you for explaining in such a clear and accessible way to us. It's truly, truly inspiring. And as I was listening to you, I was reminded of a small anecdote somebody told me when I was learning about historic buildings and traditional materials. And they said, there's a 4-letter word. It begins with L and it ends in E, and it makes the world go round. And of course, it's lime. Anyway, we're now open to questions from the floor and also from our audience that's joining us online. Emma will be dealing with some of the questions from the online audience, and Chloe has a microphone for those that would like to ask a question from the floor. Please just raise your hand if you'd like to raise a question, and if you wish, do say your name and organisation. And just while we're waiting for the first question, just one question from me, Yasmeen. Your work clearly brings local tradition, ancient wisdom, low tech, low impact solutions. And it was really interesting to see how maybe digital technology at this moment, post-COVID, now we've all learned Teams and Zoom and so on. I just wonder if you feel that may help accelerate the reach of your work in addition to the Zoom-based, web-based materials that you've been creating. Do you feel we may have a renaissance of communication and participation around these issues?
I think that's a very important question. I'm not sure if it's working. Let's see my.
Try this one.
Okay, thanks. Maybe you'll make it work. I can never work with technology somehow, you know. Yes, I think it's a really a great question, because I think today technology is part of our life very much, and even the poor have cell phones, for instance. And what we are seeing is that these video tutorials, and actually they happen because of COVID, really, because I had not understood how it could be used until we all went into Zoom and started to communicate remotely. And it works out now that the poor are able to access these tutorials, and they're able to start working by just watching step-by-step stuff. So I'm hoping, there's something like 1 million households that are without shelter in my province, not only in Pakistan, but in my province alone. And I think that may be the only way that I can get to all of them, because there's no other way that any kind of money or funds or anything will be able to do that. So I think the important thing is that we get loans, which we've just started. Luckily, one bank has agreed, that's Bank of Punjab, who will give loans now to the poor. They were not available to the poor before in my country, and that means that they can be totally independent. They can follow the videos on their cell phone, and they can build themselves. They don't need any intermediaries anymore. And I think that's what we need, is to just, not have any intermediaries. The technology is okay as an intermediary. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Thank you very much. Does anybody in the room have a question? Or yes, just in the...
Why is everybody sitting in the dark? I'm sorry, I can't see you all. Can you have the... that's much better now, at least. Much better.
If you'd just like to say who you are and...
That's working great. So I'm Liam Kelly. I work for Allies and Morrison as their sustainability coordinator. It's my first week, so sorry. But just a question. Thank you so much for your talk, Yasmeen. It was wonderful. And I think the cut through all of that seemed to be that education is paramount in terms of actually mobilizing the global south. How do you see a group of global north architects in the room actually participating in the education and the mobilization of the global south so that they can be self-reliant, as you said?
Education.
So how can we participate effectively?
How can you participate? Oh, you can. Oh, absolutely. With the particularly now with technology, there is so much that you can do because you don't have to go there anymore. Because sometimes you're afraid to go to these places. Even my people who are very rich in my country don't like to go and mix with the poor because they're just afraid of them. So I think it's okay to be able to do it remotely. And as Jeff says, I think what is important is that we share the knowledge that we have, because the biggest tragedy is that when a disaster occurs, whatever they might have built just gets washed away or just collapses with the earthquake and so on. And what we have to do is find ways to be able to see how they can build safer structures. And I think all young architects, or I don't know about the older ones, but I think young ones are really, ready, because I get a lot of very good responses from them. Maybe there's something that can be done together. So we're trying to create a kind of a zero carbon network. So if maybe you can join that, and we can see how we can, through technology, just reach out to those people who have nothing. That would be great. So are you qualified yet or not?
I'm an engineer.
Oh, you're an engineer. Okay, we need engineers very much, actually.
Welcome, yeah.
Are you converted to lime yet or not? That's the question. You have to work in lime.
I'm sold now.
Yeah.
That's great. One more on the
Great.
list. That's wonderful.
Good. I'm happy to have an engineer here. Very good.
Emma, would you like to ask one question from our online audience and just tell us where some of the people are from, and then we'll come back to the room.
Who says, how do you think that we can make more natural materials such as hempcrete more mainstream as an alternative to normal concrete and or cements?
Yeah, so it's an interesting question. I mean, in our experience, sometimes those materials, non-traditional materials, are sometimes blocked by those with vested interests in cement or other bespoke products which are there on the market. I think the answer to the question from my experience is it does take those innovative, ambitious, intelligent engineers and architects to collaborate together with ambitious clients and to prove the case. And for those at universities involved in engineering and engineering science, to take those materials, develop the data, link together. But I think there's a real hunger for trying those materials in practice. And I think, as you've demonstrated in your own work, Yasmeen, there are ways to prove earthquake resilience, to prove compressive strength of simple traditional materials. And I think people want to believe and want to experiment and find those lower carbon solutions.
I agree, Jeff. I think, you know, there's a huge number of possibilities in looking at alternative materials in the West, in the global North as well. And I believe there's a lot of research going on in many universities from what I hear. The problem is that the professionals are not ready to use those materials. I think the research is there. I think those are identified. So I think what we need to do is to get those the research data out of universities and into the professional field, where architects begin to understand that there's another way of building also, and they have other materials available. So if we can maybe, I don't know whether our RIBA could do something about this. Maybe Emma, there's something for you to do here. And, you know, and because of the institution, I think that could be wonderful, you know, to start supporting something like that. And then all of us will be able to see what is there and also, you know, use those materials.
Thank you. Is there another question in the room here?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Bernie. I'm also an engineer. I'm a structural engineering intern at Bureau Happold. And thank you for showing just how tone deaf engineers are with the engineered shelters that you showed. But despite ignoring emissions and materiality and the socio-economic impacts of those, I was wondering if there are any tools that we as modern designers can use to inform the stuff you would be doing in this global south, because we are really good at quickly optimizing and iterating through options. We have a lot of modern tools for learning. Is there a blend between these tools and the actual products?
Do you mean computer tools?
It doesn't have to be computer tools, but yeah, also computer tools like computational tools or just anything that we can blend with indigenous and vernacular knowledge.
Well, let me ask you as an engineer, do you feel there are other ways of building instead of just using cement or steel? Do you think there might be something that you might think about?
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah. So I think that's the key to everything, that we start looking at alternative ways of building. And then I think it will be possible for all of us to work together, because, you know, if we realize the damage that's being caused with cement and steel and such like, and, you know, I have to come back to Bill Gates, if you don't mind, because I feel that, you know, he's, I think, probably going to the wrong path altogether. Because what he's saying is we should make cement less carbon intensive, and also steel. And he says, yes, it's going to be very expensive, but we must still do that. But why is he not looking at other materials? I mean, there are, after all, I mean, in the West as well, in the global North as well, there are lots of materials that are available that can be made out of waste or natural materials. I don't know, there so much research is going on. So I think we should be looking at those kind of options and also start using them in some way. Then you'll show that it can be done. Right?
I think we need to fix you up for a dinner with Bill Gates as soon as possible, Yasmeen, one way or another.
You know, Jeff, I don't like the rich at all, I'm sorry. And and I feel I keep on atoning for what I've been, and I think I'd rather not see him. I think
I have the feeling you could persuade him to.
I don't think so. You know, their minds are totally set. They know exactly, because they are too, I think, well, arrogant is a very hard word, but I think it is so. I don't think they want to listen to anything else.
Okay. Thank you. Emma, do you have another question from afar?
Yes, we do. From Jasmine, who is an architectural assistant, Part 2 at Delft. She says, thank you so much for the wonderful lecture, Yasmeen. How do you think we can take these lessons, looking at vernacular, locality and tradition, and apply them in our Western urban settlements? Often we in the West acquire notions and interests in zero carbon. How can we focus our local traditions?
Yeah, you know, I've always felt that, of course, you also have the medieval towns. You have some wonderful places. I mean, you were talking about historic towns in Britain. And there used to be a tradition of building with daub and wattle, and also all kinds of other techniques, actually. And those have been given up. And lime, of course, is used so extensively because, I mean, the way you are taking care of your historic buildings is just amazing, actually. So obviously the expertise is very much there, but I think all of us have been trained I mean, cement only started, as you probably know, around the 1830s, and it became really popular around early 20th century. Before that, of course, nobody used cement, but now we don't even think of another material. So I think that in the global north, also in the westernized world as well, there are lots of possibilities. And you should also be looking at the tradition, what there was. It's probably is now expensive to do those, but I think if you make it mainstream, then prices will come down. But I think if all of us work together, then probably we can find solutions.
Thank you. Yes, another question here in the front. Thanks, Chloe.
Good evening. My name is Nuha Hansen from Eliza Morrison as well, so I'm waving the flag. Thank you so much for the really wonderful lecture. It's very inspiring. I was really drawn to your message about dignity and also the fact that poverty is not a forever condition and it's one that people can get out of, and likewise a humility that it's also not something that any one of us is necessarily immune to. And therefore, I would like to ask more about the financial model of the works and how it's financed and how people are supposed to benefit from the opportunity to have the tools and the knowledge available, and how they can financially deal with that.
You mean if you were to get involved as providing these services to the poor, whether is that what you're asking? How?
No, I mean if I'm poor and I want to build a lovely house like that for myself and my family, how would I finance it and how would I go about?
Okay. Well, first of all, of course, for every context, we need to be designing. So as professionals, if you've got designs available as to how you can build these houses yourself, that's the first thing. Because I said the less intermediaries we have, the cost will really come down a lot. And then if we can persuade our governments to start giving small amounts of funds to people who are poor and who don't have access to these huge loans, then that could be something that could be possible, because the bottleneck always is the financing, as you pointed out. And if we can really make sure that banks and other agencies do that. I mean, we have the wonderful example of the Grameen Bank in Bangladesh, where they give out money to the poor, and the women have done extremely well. And I think if we were to have that kind of banks, and there are micro banks everywhere, but they don't give money, not enough money to the poor somehow. But if we could do that, then I think people who can't afford it can do it. But in the West, I feel that I'm sure a lot of people are living really in really hardened circumstances. There's homelessness here as well. So we need to reach out to them in some way. And I think young people could really be there to help out. And if people get some help, technical help, they're willing to pay for it as well. Like you saw my woman who she teaches how to make the stove. She doesn't actually do it herself, but she's earning. So similarly, I think there's a possibility, but we've never tried it. Because architects have never acted as entrepreneurs. They've always been there till somebody will come and commission them. Well, it's not happening anymore. So we have to rethink.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the question. Emma, do you have one more?
Yep. From Fatima Job, who's joining from Dakar. She says, have you thought about exporting the handmade tiles to offer sustainable work for the men and women of Malki?
Well, I don't believe in sending things from one place to the other. I think there's a lot of embodied energy there, so it's counterproductive. I think the thing to do is to train everybody. Everybody can learn. However non-literate they might be or poor they might be, they can learn. And I think that's what we must be doing, that they can make all these beautiful things themselves. And why not? Because there are crafts everywhere. People have lots of skills, and you have to see what they are and help them to do it right there where they are. There's no need to export anything from one place to the other anymore. We should not be doing it anywhere, I don't think.
Is there another question in? Yes, one at the front and then one towards the back.
Thank you very much. My name is Hudaina Alkani. Thank you, Yasmeen. It's an honor to meet you and attend your very beautiful talk about your works. Just a very important question. What would you think would be the limitations facing scaling up such a concept? I'm just talking because I also worked in Syria before the crisis and worked with informal settlement. And I was seeing lots of conflicting interests that would really stop any project like this involving communities. And I mean, it sounds really fascinating, like working with the ecology and the zero carbon and zero poverty. And I would be really very much happy to hear your insights about this. How can we scale up? How can we go about and around these conflicting interests and challenges? Thank you very much.
Yeah, you know, it's a very complex question that you asked. It's not easy to handle it. Because the problem is that whenever there's a conflict or there's a disaster, then everybody wants to go and help. But they think that they should give charity because it somehow satisfies their conscience. But I think we have to take the harder route, the more difficult route. And I would really say that start working with women in any of the conflict situations. They're the ones who will come forward. They're the ones who will carry the whole thing forward. The work I'm doing, the success is where the women of the area feel that they will achieve dignity if they were to take on those projects. So, for instance, if it is the stove, then when she's sitting on that elevated platform, she feels as if she's on a throne, and suddenly her status is elevated within the eyes of everybody and herself as well. A lot of times women don't feel that they deserve it, but this is something we have to make sure that they feel that this is dignified. Similarly with toilets, if my program on toilets is moving forward, it's because women feel that they want that privacy. They want a dignified life. So I think we should really perhaps work more with women. And that's why I feel that I've got an advantage as being a woman, whether an architect or whatever, because I feel I can do more, I can get more done through other women because they trust me. So I think maybe you could try something like that out. I mean, Syria is a very difficult situation, though I don't know how you'll do it, but yeah.
Thank you very much. There's another question halfway back, and then I think there was one further back too.
Hi, I'm Carl Singh-Porwalla from Barbara Byes Architects. You mentioned charities that go into disaster areas, swoop in and swoop out and provide charity, but that doesn't solve particular issues there. So what would your advice be to, say, for instance, UK-based charities that want to go and help in those areas, and their heart is in the right place, but doesn't sort of conform to your model of help that you're suggesting?
Yeah. Yes, I think it's a very important question because a lot of people with the goodness of their heart want to help when they see situations like this. And it's quite understandable that they feel that if they give something to somebody, they will, obviously things will get better. But of course, there's always a limit to how much you can give because now the levels of everything, deprivation is so high that whatever money can be, collected, it will never be enough. So I've come to the conclusion that I've seen a lot of international agencies coming in and a lot of, organizations such as UKAID, DFID and UK and USAID and I don't know how many World Banks and everybody comes in and wants to give money. And I found that it doesn't really help finally because, then it all dries out. So I would suggest that if there is any funding to be given, it should be used for training everybody, sharing the knowledge. I mean, that's what's needed. So any money that goes into that is really well worth spending. But just giving out, like saying, okay, we'll give you a house or we'll give you some gifts, but that doesn't work. It's not needed even. Because you must remember, they have lots of resilience, but also a lot of capabilities. And what we need to do is through training and through knowledge sharing, we can really lift them all up. And if you do that, then you will not need half the money or 1/4 of the money that is normally now thrown away to these countries, which are normally very corrupt. And so the money actually hardly gets to the poor. So I'm all for, just training everybody and saying, well, you go ahead and do it yourself. And they can do it.
It's education. Yeah. Excellent. Thank you.
I think that's a great question, and it in some ways comes back to the point earlier and the question of, what can I do as a young architect or a young engineer or a more experienced architect with networks and the privilege of connections with other people, and it really is about being able to offer time and encouragement to people, and sharing of skills, and offering support really, and finding solutions, recognizing our sense of privilege of having those things, and the necessity of sharing those with others to help address the challenges we face.
Yeah. Giving something of yourself rather than just money. Money doesn't mean much, actually. So, yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Expertise is what we need.
Another question down at the front here. Oh, I'm sorry.
Hi,
one at the back and then one at the front. Thank you.
My name's Zara. I'm a postgraduate student. I study violence, conflict and development. So quite different, not an architect or engineer. I feel a bit of an imposter over here, to be honest. But I found your talk very inspiring, and I appreciate how accessible it was. And I wanted to ask kind of, what sorts of organizations and disciplines are kind of involved in these projects, and if they're not there, who would you like to see? And separately, what role do you want the Pakistani diaspora to play in supporting these projects?
Zara, you're from Pakistan, right?
Yes.
I presume? Yeah. Okay, wonderful. Good that you're here. So I think Pakistan diaspora can play a very important role within the country, although they are remote, but I know their hearts beat with everybody there. And again, I always discourage them to collect money and to send their forth, because this is mostly what they do. They do amazing fundraisers, but I think that probably is not the right way to go. But all of you carry such immense amount of expertise and knowledge and things that you're doing, and there could be a way for which you could really share that knowledge in Pakistan, but also I think a lot with the poor and the rural areas, because a lot of times sharing is done, but mostly at NGO level or with people who are more privileged. And so my whole take is that we should really now try to get to the really, as we say, bottom of the pyramid. And you can bring in a host of amazing kind of expertise there, really. And again, as we mentioned, talked about earlier, through technology. So whatever you can do, it can be all imparted. It can be done. This is a network we have to develop in Pakistan. You can do it then. So yes, please tell me what you can do, and we'll find a way to get you there remotely. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you. Emma, do you have one more question from afar?
Yeah, I think there's a gentleman here who is there.
And we'll come to the front here afterwards. Yeah.
Okay. Question is: you have transformed ecologically relevant architecture in the world. Can your principles be applied to flood zones and environmentally challenged areas in the US? I'm Mani Adulan Fahadi, a senior planner at Stanford University, and I met you as a teenager in 1980 in your home in Pakistan for a dinner with my father, Iranian architect Nada Aralan. You are brilliant. Oh, thank you.
Yeah. We'll give him lots of my good wishes. Amazing. This is so wonderful to hear from you. Yeah, I think US is really, I feel that they need to reform in many ways. I think the way the whole system is, and I mean, just vehicles have taken over their lives, you know, and unless they reorganize themselves, I think there doesn't seem to be much hope in the US, I'm sorry to say. And because I think, you know, unless they start trying to, you know, become a little bit more humanistic and try to see that, I mean, if I may tell a story, I've been just visiting my son who lives in some place called Rancho Mirage, and there are less people and more roads everywhere. So you go there and everybody's kind of, you know, in these huge kind of whatever compounds, and just tar-topped roads everywhere. Well, how much heat is coming out of that? Nobody really, or very few people use them. So what are they there for? So much funding and money and environmental pollution that is created with that. So I'm horrified to think, you know, and I think, yeah, I think there could be many ways to do things there. I think, yeah. Well, we'll stop using concrete and steel as a beginning.
It's a new frontier of challenges for all the wrong reasons, perhaps. Yes.
Hi, thank you. My name's Simon Alford. It's a very fascinating talk and an insight into enabling people to help themselves to change their own lives and using architecture as a tool to do so. But Lahore, for instance, is also a city of 12 million people. And you talked at the beginning about the global carbon challenge. Are the technologies that you're looking at being explored at a bigger scale in that city? Because I think a lot of the problems that we face in the developed global north, land ownership, large-scale construction, high-rise. So I'm just interested to know, at the epicenter of your research, is your work feeding back into the traditional models of construction and improving the carbon story of large-scale development, which is what we face in much of the developed north? Is that feedback going on yet?
Yeah, if I understand you correctly, we're talking about what can be done here, other than.
Well, sort of, as in, you focus on a huge issue,
yeah,
and how you've enabled people to help themselves get out of poverty and build a new environment.
Yeah.
But in Lahore is also a huge infrastructural city, and I think for us to learn here from there, I'm interested to know whether some of the sort of technologies that you're talking about at that micro build scale that you've turned into a kind of large scale event, is that feeding back into large scale development in Lahore and Pakistan, and what might we learn from that here? Because we face the same challenge, which is reducing carbon emissions, but it becomes complex at a larger scale. So I'm just to know whether there's been a feedback loop that we can learn from.
Okay, sure. I mean, that's something very important now, because I think most of the money and the consumption is here in the global north. So here, I think you need to work maybe even harder. We have to do too, because for us, our politicians, because of wanting to have high visibility for everything they do, so multi-stories are a fad. And you look at Middle East, which is a totally artificial world, I believe, because I mean, there's no reason for them to be going so high, but they do. And I think what COVID-19 has probably proven, that it's not always a good idea to be going up in these multi-story towers. And I think there are studies being done which show that even if you had low rise, but you can have fairly high densities, you don't really have to go for high rises. So I think we should be looking at those studies more. They're happening in the West as well. And also there is a whole thing about eco-urbanism. There's a whole thing about degrowth that I mentioned, and transition design, which is happening in the West. And those, I think, are very valuable movements that we need to also somehow spread. I think what I'm saying about our own cities is that I feel that they are more humanistic. They are more for people to be able to get together and more interaction among people. And I think that's what's missing in a lot of cities. But I have to tell you that, I was in Oxford and I was there after so many years, and wonderful to be there. And it was so good that so much traffic has been blocked, but the tar is still there, although you have absolutely amazing stone cobbles in many places, but why not everywhere? And why is it there's not more terracotta so that we have more permeable pavements? So you can start at almost every level and try to see what you can do to reduce the carbon footprint. It won't happen overnight, but I think we make a slow progress. And for instance, with hybrid buildings, I was saying you could have a concrete frame or a steel frame, but inside you could have really lime brick or other materials, gypsum and so on, which we know will bring the carbon footprint down. So we start at least making some steps forward in that sense. It could happen then.
Thank you very much, Yasmeen. So we've reached 8 o'clock, which is the time for the end of our Q&A session.
Sorry, I think I took too long with the...
Not at all. They were wonderful questions and discussions and answers.
Yeah,
thank
amazing.
you very much.
Thank you so much for asking all those questions. Great.
And the bar will be open for a short while for people to share more conversations.
Yeah.
Just before we finish with some thanks, just one or two announcements from RIBA International, in particular, mindful of the fact we're joined by hundreds of people from all over the world, as well as a diverse audience here at the RIBA. But from our RIBA International, look out over the next month or so for the e-publication of 100 China Architects, which is a collection of work by leading Chinese architects across a range of fields from the ends of March. To mark the last day of Dubai Expo on the 31st of March. The Gulf Live talk will be with Tim Lee from Stage 1, and he'll be discussing the making of the Al Basel Dome, which has been the heart of the Expo. And registration is open for the She as an Architect exhibition, which will be part of the RIBA Women in Architecture program, led by RIBA China chapter, which will be shown in Shanghai later this year. And you can find all of those on the RIBA International pages on architecture.com. And closer to home here, on Tuesday, the 5th of April, the next talk at 6 p.m. will be the Sterling shortlisted Cambridge Mosque with Julia Barfield. And the Building Stories series continues on Tuesday lunchtimes. Next talk with Mike Tonkin. So again, have a look on the website. But it just remains for me just to offer a few thank yous to Oxford Brookes University again for all your help in organising Yasmeen's arrangements and travel to the UK, and the Institution of Structural Engineers for support with promotion of this evening's event. To the RIBA team here, Emma, Chloe, Richard, who's been on the buttons for delivering the event, and to our audience, of course, for time and sharing questions and insights and thoughts and passions. And of course, most of all to you, Yasmeen. Thank you so much for such an inspiring talk and the commitment to the cause that you show. You've given us a fantastic Friday night out in London, and so much to think about over the weekend and to take forward into the spring, and we're so grateful. So, ladies and gentlemen, the bars are open for drinks for the next hour or so, but in the meantime, please join me in thanking Yasmeen for a wonderful evening.